Greetings and welcome back to Fun with Dashcams. This is going to be video addendum 2 Bravo to video number 2, the DIY Dashcam. I'm labeling this the non-permanent / anti-theft option. I have had a couple of friends over the last few months since I've been enjoying this hobby who have expressed a desire to be able to put a dashcam in the car but not necessarily make it permanent. And when you think about it, depending upon what you're going to use, it may be a GoPro, $300, $400. You know, it could be an old throwaway cell phone, you know, free plus whatever your mounting option is. But the important thing is you have to have a way to mount it. Now, we have discussed, you know, you could mount it on the window via a suction mount, and you could remove that every time, but that gets a little cumbersome, really gets a little old. The whole point of this is we want to make this fairly easy so that we're going to use it on a consistent basis. So when we, let's say we really want to focus on putting it on the dash, because you may not have the option to put it on the windscreen. So typically we'd use a disc like this. This I've previously shown you, has some 3M backing. It will mount on any relatively smooth surface, and we would, you know, but this has to be permanently affixed to your dash. And we can then attach our mount, attach our camera, whatever we're going to use, cell phone or whatever. The problem though is, again, you have this big black disc sitting in the middle of your dash, or wherever you're going to put it, on the windscreen, on the dash, on the top of your head, whatever. Let's say we don't necessarily want to do that. Enter this option, a non-permanent GPS mount. I picked this up at Fry's a while back, actually for an old, quite a while back, for an old GPS I had, because I had about a $300 GPS, and I was moving between different vehicles at the time. I had a car in the shop, and I was buying another car, things like that. Well, I still wanted to use my GPS to get to and from work and to drive around town, because my job requires me to drive over toll bridges and on the tollway and across freeways and everything like that. So I needed something that would allow me to still use my GPS but not have to constantly mount it to the windscreen and move it every couple of days as I used another car. So I decided to go for a GPS pad that sits on the dash. Got it for about 15 bucks. It has a rubberized bottom, so it generally is a no slip. And the reason why you might find something like this interesting is because it's easily removed to go out of sight. I would have my GPS on here, take it and put it down in the passenger's compartment, or I'd put it behind the passenger seat. My windows are slightly tinted, so looking in, you're not just going to see it. It's not just going to be sitting there glaring at you. Mounted on the dash or mounted on the window. And you know, anybody, most thieves are petty thieves, and they'll steal anything. But if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. Or like my problem was I needed to move it around every couple of weeks to a different vehicle. So with a non-permanent option, easily remove it and move it to the next car. And I'm actually going to spend a minute to build a full-up dash cam with GPS here in a second to show you what I mean. And then what's nice thing is this, you know, it doesn't give a shit what the dash is. It doesn't give a shit if it's an expensive car or a beater. You know, it's it's universal. Any dash, any vehicle. Downside for something like this is that with hard bumps, you know, it's not permanently affixed. So, you know, right here it's not moving, but if I hit a real rocky road, you know, or gravel road, it might have a tendency to migrate around. Of course, it can be readjusted. That's easy enough. But, you know, it's just a minor niggling annoyance. So, anti-theft, you have to remember to put out of sight. If you get lazy, if you get tired, this is sitting in the middle of your dash. So just like if it were mounted permanently, it's a big giant beacon flashing "Steal me." You must remove it. Another problem is if you're a fan of Armor All, then you are no fan of this guy, because yes, it's a rubberized surface, but it's intent that it's going to be gripping on something that's not lubricated. If you have any experience with Armor All, Yes, the stuff makes your dash nice and shiny. Yes, it might rejuvenate it according to the bottle. The problem is it's a petroleum-based lubricant, basically, for your dash. That's how it keeps dust and everything from sticking to it. Is because it is more or less acting like a lubricant. So you smear this all over your dash, you put this guy on, he's going to be sliding around ever so slightly, but eventually he will move. And with bumps, it's going to be even worse. A sloping dash. That's the kiss of death for this guy. I used to have a Ford Focus, and the dash literally curved at probably about a 20-degree arc. It was like the end of an OG curve. So I actually had this in the dash. I had to push it all the way forward towards the windscreen, and then it would not move because that was the only level spot on the dash, and it would stay. But you know, once it worked its way back towards that sloping portion of the dash, it would just slowly work its way back as I drove down the road until it finally fell off and landed on my gear shift. So those are some things to consider with this kind of an option. So your dash needs to be fairly level, it needs to not be well lubricated, and as long as you meet those kind of requirements and remember to remove it, you will probably have a nice option. So I'm using the 3000 for this demonstration, and I have adjusted the mount so that the camera is oriented towards the dash. The suction is oriented towards the dash. Instead of putting my little ring, I'm just going to mount it right there. We can then add our GPS. Give me a second. Tricky little bastard. It's basically a 4-way Molex connector. If you've ever plugged in alternate 12 volt for a PC power supply, that's what he's shaped like. So he's keyed a certain way, and the problem is I can't read the key, so you got to try all 4 ways to push him in before you finally find it. And I think, damn it. Yeah, I'm cussing, I don't care. It's late, I'm tired. I could swear that that is the way that it's supposed to go. It should be keyed. Unless I'm just reading this thing totally wrong. That should be the key. There we go. Okay, so we have our GPS antenna. We will then move that GPS antenna, and we will just affix it. Say right here, as long as it's not in the way of the camera. We can just put it anywhere. Wrap it around if you want. This is just a tab of Gorilla Tape. I mean, you can mount it down here, mount it here, you know, wherever. But now we have a GPS antenna. We can then plug in our power. Assuming you've already loaded your SD card. And what we now have is a dash cam, more or less mounted, and like we previously discussed with taxi cams, we got a forward view, a rear view. We have access to everything, and when we're ready to put it away, we just pick it up and move it behind the seat, or move it somewhere out of sight, or we want to move it to another car. It's all ready to go, completely contained. You just got to remember, unplug the power cord and bring it with you, or you could, you know, wrap your access to the power cord. Nice thing about doing this is you can move it from car to car. So if you want to give this to a friend, let them borrow it for a while if they need to use it. And you know, as always, we have our option of adjusting our angles, and we have our 3 axes. So I mean, it's basically just like we were mounting it permanently on the dash. The downside, of course, is, you know, bumps. This is intended for a GPS. We have a little weight at the end, but this is still a lot lighter than a GPS. So as long as you're willing to put up with a little bit of motion in your videos, that it's not perfectly smooth production quality, this is a valid option for your quick and dirty anti-theft go anywhere dash cam. and no permanent mounts in the car.